top 10 defensive ends heading into the 2019 season. I gotta hurry up and finish all these top 10 lists, or else it's gonna be week 1 and I'm still not finished. I'm still barely getting the cornerback list out. So yeah, I need to hurry this up. Anyway, so yeah, this list it was easier to make than the defensive tackle list for sure. So let's get underway. At number 10, I have Danielle Hunter, defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings. He had 14 and a half sacks in 2018, which was 4th in the league. 10 is a good spot. Looking back at it now, I think I could have moved him up a couple of spots, but I think 10 is a good solid spot. If I were to look at some of his previous numbers, could possibly move up on the list, but I think 10's a good solid spot. At number 9, I have Jason Pierre-Paul. He had 12 and a half sacks in 2018. But this is where, 10, 8, and 9 is where I think you could, you can have guys like Jason Pierre-Paul and Danielle Hunter. You can move them up or down. But I think, once again, good solid spot here for Jason Pierre-Paul. At number 8, I had Calais Campbell, part of the Jacksonville defense. 10 and a half sacks. His other numbers from past years are good. So, yeah, 8, 9, and 10. Calais Campbell, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Danielle Hunter. Those guys are, you can put them in any one of those slots. When I was making this list, I looked at it a couple times. I had Campbell at one point at 10, then I dropped him back down. Then I put him at 9, then I put him, at 8. So in 8 was just the spot where he stuck. So 10 and a half sacks is good for Campbell, and I think 8 is a good solid spot. At number 7, I have Dee Ford. He had 13 sacks, which was tied for 7th in the league with Frank Clark. I have high expectations for him now that he's going to be a part of my San Francisco 49ers defense. He's had good numbers throughout his career. And, yeah. At number 6, I have Frank Clark. Like I mentioned, he was tied for 7th with Dee Ford. He's now part of the Kansas City defense because they traded away Dee Ford. I think 6 is a good solid spot. I thought about, you could flip-flop. Well, I don't want to say you can flip-flop Frank Clark and Dee Ford, mainly because Dee Ford did have an off year the year before where he had only 2 sacks. But Frank Clark had more consistent numbers throughout his career in his last couple of seasons, which is why I decided to favor Frank Clark and put him in the 6th spot. So Frank Clark at number 6. At number 5, from the New Orleans Saints, Cameron Jordan had 12 sacks in this last season. Big part of the Saints defense. Once we get to the 5, my original list looked a lot different from, my rough drafts looked a lot different. And I definitely had Cameron Jordan a bit lower on this list, but after looking at his numbers compared to other guys, I definitely moved him up, and I think 5 is a good solid spot for him. At number 4, I had DeMarcus Lawrence, who had 10 and a half sacks in 2018. He's a big part of the Dallas Cowboys defense. He's a big part of why they have a really good defense. Looking at his numbers, I think 4 is a good solid spot. He could definitely move up because he's had, better seasons than 10 and a half sacks. But I think 4 is a good solid spot for him right now. At number 3, I had Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett had 13 and a half sacks in 2018, which was 6th in the league. I think he's only going to get better. That sack total is going to go up higher. I think he's going to float around 1 through 3, in my opinion. I think that there's a chance, especially with the guys who are at the top who are injury prone and have had injury plagued seasons in the past, that he could be considered a number 1 or 2 defensive end in the league. So it just depends what happens with the guys who I have ahead of him in the coming years. At number 2, I have Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa had 12 and a half sacks in 2017, had a low sack total in 2018 due to missing 9 games. I think when Joey Bosa is healthy and playing, he's a big part of he's obviously a big part of the Chargers defense and one of the best defensive ends in the league. And at number 1, it's pretty obvious who the number 1 defensive end in the league is. It's J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt had 16 and a half sacks in 2018, which was second in the league, only behind Aaron Donald, who is a monster. And so, I mean, it's kind of hard to compete with Aaron Donald, but if anyone can do it, it's J.J. Watt. Has had injuries in the past, which is why I say that guys like Myles Garrett can, get closer to the number 1 and 2 spot. But when J.J. Watt is healthy and playing, it's really, really hard to stop him. And that is my top 10 defensive end list.